Folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Been thinking for about 2 hours now of what to do with this video. Not wondering what to talk about, because I know that, the subject matter anyways, but how to present it, because I want to pass along the very possible seriousness of what I'm going to talk about, that it could be very, very serious. It could change the world, really, what's scheduled to happen tomorrow. It may be nothing, though. And so I don't want to blow things out of proportion, cause people to panic and to be accused of, passing along fear porn, which I get accused of that every day. So I guess that's not even a big issue. What I'm talking about is a speech that's been scheduled for Putin to give tomorrow. And I know he talks from time to time, but this one they've definitely indicated is very important. And so a lot of people are kind of wondering what this is. And there are a lot of possibilities to what he could talk about. But as far as I can tell, no one really knows. They're just all kind of guessing and trying to figure out who might be the right person in their answer. And so I do want to talk about it, and I want to express to you the seriousness of what could be happening tomorrow, but yet also not cause you to go into a panic and think that the world is coming to an end tomorrow. So apparently, a little over a week ago, Putin has announced that he will be giving a speech tomorrow. It was so important that the Kremlin ordered all state-run major media outlets in Russia to broadcast it. They're required. They told them all. They want everyone broadcasting this speech. There's been video coming out of Moscow today that they've been setting roadblocks up, clearing the streets, making way for Putin's entrance, his motorcade. There's also posters and billboards that's gone up all over the country telling everyone to watch and listen tomorrow, talking about February 21st as kind of a day to remember, a day that we will never look back, all kinds of kind of encryptic, messaging going on, very, much propaganda in Russia about this speech tomorrow. So because of the buildup of this speech, the buildup that Russia is doing, I highly doubt that this is just going to be a speech that we're like, all that for nothing? I mean, that's no big deal. We all knew that, or that's not that, I don't think it'll be that way. I think it's going to be a pretty significant speech. He's going to have something serious to say, and there's a lot for him to talk about. Obviously, one of the biggest topics would be Nord Stream pipeline and the accusations, let's put it that way for the sake of it, the accusations that the Biden administration, Joe Biden himself personally, and certain agents within the Norwegian government were directly involved in blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. That's a big deal. A really, really big deal. Our media here back home has not covered it very much, but that is a significant deal. In fact, I can't think of a single thing that a president in all of American history has done that's more impeachable than that act. It doesn't matter how bad Russia is or not. That's a very significant act, because it didn't just hurt Russia, it hurt most of Europe. And in the end, it really benefited the United States. So there's that. There's this constant buildup of the war itself. The EU, NATO, just a couple of days ago, the Munich Security Conference. Of course, we found out this morning that Joe Biden paid a visit to Zelensky in Ukraine. So there's a lot of buildup in that area, and I suspect that we're going to see a major escalation. That's what I believe. I could be wrong. I mean, we'll find out probably this time tomorrow. We'll know what's really kind of going on. But we have to be ready for this thing to kind of take a turn. I know that many of us, many of you are probably in the same state of mind, or at least a similar state of mind, going back a year from now, almost exactly a year from now, before Russia invaded Ukraine. There was all kinds of YouTubers and pundits, political pundits, prognosticators, all these people, well, is Russia going to invade Ukraine or not? There were some that said they would, and there were some that said they wouldn't, and many people I saw in the comments of mine and other people's content just said, no, there's just no way. It's saber rattling, it's not going to happen. Well, a year later, we know the truth of that. And so, trying not to get myself worked up over something that may or may not happen, I am looking back to that event and saying, well, a lot of people thought it wasn't going to happen then, and look what happened. So, are we at that point again of a potential World War III scenario? I mean, Kamala Harris and the Prime Minister of Britain has already called it a global war, so what's that much difference? I mean, we've sent over $100 billion, maybe up to $200 billion of aid and arms. Announced today we're sending another $500 million of weapons over there. And our government has openly, multiple times, even as close as the last day or so, professed that we will be there by Ukraine's side till the end, that this is a long road and that we will be there till the end. We've seen all of this happen. We are pretty much at World War III. I mean, you just have to accept that. We have to accept that we are at war. It's not necessarily a traditional war, but it's very, very much an overt proxy war. And by everything that we can tell, we probably do have some troops on the ground, at least in advisory roles and technicians and stuff. And we most certainly are aiding their troops by intelligence gathering and techniques that we're using to give to them. We're training them. It's almost like we're at war with Russia, and the Ukrainians are just kind of our mercenary army that we're paying to go fight them. That's really what it's like. So to potentially see a drastic turn tomorrow due to this speech, I think is very likely. There's all kinds of stuff going on. The United Nations was supposed to do a Security Council meeting on this subject and on the war, and Russia had requested them to hear their argument on Nord Stream, and that was supposed to happen tomorrow, and I guess that's been postponed due to this speech. So what is it that they know that's going to happen, or what they believe that's going to happen? It does seem to be very significant. There's been a lot of stuff, I know, happening here at the home front. I just saw that there was another explosion. A steel plant, I think, blew up, or at least an explosion at a steel plant in Ohio just this morning, a few minutes ago, actually. So there's a lot of things going on, I know, and they're significant. It's all important. But this issue, depending on what's in that speech and how the world reacts to it, it could be forever changing. Just a few days ago, I mentioned it on here, and I think I mentioned it at yesterday's local meeting, that Politico ran an article, and the headlines was "The End of the World as We Know It." I don't know if they were going back to the song or, the little prepper acronym, "The End of the World as We Know It." But the point is that's the article that they ran, and of course they were talking about this issue, this very issue of this buildup and this very likely possible chance that NATO and the West is going towards war with Russia. And this possibility that China is involved, that they're supplying it. I know there's an article floating around that maybe China and Hungary are going to try to reach a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, which I highly doubt that would work, because everybody knows that China and Hungary are, favoring Russia. So I doubt that Ukraine would even listen to that. I think that China is trying to do its best to lay low and waiting for the right moment for it to do its thing, which is most likely Taiwan. They want the West, the United States, to use up a little bit more of its weapons and get pulled and stretched in different directions just a little bit more before they jump in. And so we're left with this strong possibility that tomorrow things could turn very much more, bad, worse, horrible. Just by speech, it doesn't mean that we should expect to see nukes dropping out of the sky tomorrow, but we could definitely hear the words that would tell us where this is probably going to be headed tomorrow. And depending on what he says, who knows, a false flag, something like that could happen, or an actual attack could happen. We don't know. I just want to convey to you that don't be terrified, don't be petrified in fear because of this, but I would certainly be paying attention to it. I would be listening and doing your best to not fall for everything that everyone's saying, even myself. Listen to it, use your best judgment. It's not a bad thing to listen to different sides of the argument to try to come up with your own opinion, and then go from there. Of course, this speech, you may not need to be having an opinion. It may just be a flat-out declaration of war, and in that case, you don't need to figure out what it was said. The point is, folks, is get ready. I think that this is probably coming at us a lot faster than we think. A lot of people keep saying, "Oh, it may not happen for another year or two." It's possible. It couldn't. It may not happen for years. But I think in my gut, you know what I'm saying. I feel in my gut that this is going to happen faster than we think. That the timeline is moving quicker than we all realize. And I think all of these other things that are happening, while significant, are distracting us from some of the things that are probably really going on. And there's a lot. And of course, the media and the government's doing a good job of keeping us from the full intensity of what's happening. There are lots of distractions going on. They don't want people going and running on the banks because they fear that Russia is about ready to nuke us or something like that. Bottom line, we just got to keep getting ready. Stock up. If you can this week, if you can go out and put a decent little bit of cash towards food or water or gasoline or medicine, medical supplies, I would advise you to do that. Depending on how things go and what transpires after that, any potential attacks, any potential panic, we don't know what could happen. And so we have to be ready for that. We have to be ready for panic and for attacks and counterattacks and false flags, things like that. So I would do the best you can to kind of get stocked up and just be ready. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but be ready in case you need to kind of hunker down for a while or just stay ahead of the curve, because that's really a big part of what being a prepper is trying to stay ahead of that. In the end, folks, get your houses in order. Seriously. Prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually, because tomorrow it may be the end of the world as we know it, and it may just be another boring speech that we laugh at because there was all this hype over nothing. We'll know tomorrow, though. Folks, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.